Hello, BookTube, and welcome to your Daily Penguin, our tour through my Penguin Classic wall, book by book, author by author, and in some cases, omission by omission. Don't think I'm not noticing that. I am using this Penguin Classic tour to organize this penguin wall. In addition to amusing myself and amusing you, I'm using this to organize my penguins. There's a part of them that are a little bit organized, but most of that wall back there is not organized, and it is a mess. A mess. Authors, the same author cropping up in 6 different places, and also duplicates and sometimes triplicates. And those need to go. Those absolutely need to go. As anathema as it is for me to get rid of a Penguin Classic, I do not need 3 copies of anything, 2 copies of anything, and especially when it's something that I have other editions of that aren't Penguins. No. This is part of the goal of this thing, is to take that wall under control. And hand in hand with that goes noticing what things I want in a Penguin Classic that I don't have. There are quite a few. I'm keeping a list, and I'm just gonna bite the bullet here. And I'm an inveterate South Boston Irish Catholic penny pincher, but I'm gonna bite the bullet and just buy new penguins for these things. I'm not gonna wait to find them used, because they show up in the most tantalizing condition. You'll see a Penguin Classic at a used bookstore that looks perfectly good, and it's one you really want, one that fills a gap. And then you open it and it's got obnoxious yellow highlighting all throughout it and stuff like that. I'll just get new penguins of the ones that I want. And today is a good example of that, not only for stuff that I feel certain exists that I don't have, but also for stuff, as is usual in this Penguin Classic tour, that doesn't exist but should. And today we are dealing with Arthur Conan Doyle with the Sherlock Holmes stories. We've already seen Sherlock Holmes in that beautiful Penguin Classic Deluxe volume of the collected novels. And here we have a selection of Penguin Classics. This one is The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes and the Memoirs of Sherlock Holmes. There is the immortal fight between Holmes and Professor Moriarty at the Reichenbach Falls. And this has just the 2 books, the 2 collections of short stories. Then we have A Study in Scarlet. Just an individual book of A Study in Scarlet. Very nice. Very nice, in case you feel like reading that all by itself. And then we have a novel, the least read of all the novels, and a few stories. This is The Valley of Fear, and there is Basil Rathbone on the cover. The Valley of Fear and selected stories. So this is the whole of that novel plus selected stories. And that is 3 volumes of Arthur Conan Doyle out of what I feel certain is 6. I feel certain that Penguin makes at least 6 volumes, individual volumes, apart from the Penguin Classic Deluxe Edition. Like, for instance, how on earth can A Study in Scarlet be a standalone novel and not The Hound of the Baskervilles? Of course, there has to be a Penguin Classic Hound of the Baskervilles. And why would you do The Valley of Fear if you're not going to do, for instance, Sign of 4? I feel certain that there are other Penguin Classic Sherlock Holmes volumes out there, including, see, this one is fairly old, still has the color-coded bar on the top. This is the new style with the black spine and a sort of elegant white script instead of these block letters along the spine. I feel certain that even if we just look for these, that there are other Sherlock Holmes volumes out there, and I want them. I absolutely want them. Although I have the collected Sherlock Holmes and I have the Penguin Classic Deluxe Edition of the novels, I still want all the extant Penguin Classics of this particular author and character duo. And one of the Penguin Classic editions out there in a normal black spine trade paperback that I will not find is the collected stories. Unless I'm much mistaken, there is not a Penguin Classic black spine trade paperback of the complete stories of Sherlock Holmes, much less one with the original illustrations. And there are reprints of that. There are remainders of that are easy enough to buy. I have one here in this room, but I wish that it were a Penguin Classic for my shelf. It's one of their conspicuous lacks, one of the conspicuous lacunae in their list that of the type that I have mentioned many times before. For a long time, I would have said the King James Bible was a major gap in their coverage, and they did it. For a long time, I would have said the unabridged Boswell's Life of Johnson would have been a major gap, but then they did it. Neither I nor anyone else ever said, gee, I wish Penguin Classic did Domesday Book. But they did it anyway. And you saw yesterday that they do a big, gorgeous trade paperback of the relatively unabridged Clarissa by Samuel Richardson. That's a huge thing. That's 1,200 pages. If they can do that, if they can do the unabridged Boswell, then they can do the complete stories of Sherlock Holmes. They could even, maybe, if they wanted to, do a complete Sherlock Holmes. Stories and novels. But the volume of stories, of short stories, preferably with the Sidney Paget illustrations, that is a classic volume. I don't, no pun intended, and I don't know why Penguin doesn't do that. But even accounting for the ones that they don't make, I feel certain there are ones they do make that I want. So I am slowly building a list of these things. Once upon a time, quite a few of you, when quarantine started, were emailing me and asking if maybe I could make that list public. If maybe I could make an Amazon wish list, which I don't do. With the unspoken motivation being that then you could buy me those things. I don't want that to happen. That has to stop. Buying Steve books was a luxury of lockdown, and it's got to stop. No, I'll get them on my own, but it's thrilling in a bookish way. I know I don't have to explain it to the rest of you. It's thrilling to look at a wall like this and say, okay, let's get a handle on you. Let's pull out the duplicates or the triplicates. Let's look through these things and say, all right, do you like this or is it in crappy condition? Let's make a list of the things that belong on this wall that you don't have. That is a tremendous amount of fun. And I've been doing that for half a year now. So here, I told myself in January that in June I would make the first of those Penguin orders. So I will probably get around to doing that in January. I did not imagine that a pandemic would intervene, but it looks like that won't be much of a problem now. So I think I will indulge. The next commission check that comes in, the next little checky poo that comes across the doorway will be diverted to Penguin Classics. And how much fun is that? It's a little bit of a contravening of my own rules. I even after a pandemic, I still find it weird to go out and buy a book. I am accustomed to getting books in the mail or to requesting them if I don't get them. I'm not going to request brand new backstock from Penguin Classic. I'm happy to get and read and champion their new productions, but I'm not going to do that. And also the other tenet is that I always go by is the Brattle will provide, the used bookstore here in Boston that has a huge turnover, a massive amount of stuff, but pristine Penguin Classics aren't always easy to come by. These things are marketed to schools. So I want these things. I want 2020 to be the year when I make the Penguin wall into just a thing of beauty, just the best Penguin wall it can possibly be. I still have the ultimate dream somewhere down the line of making this a Penguin room, but I think that would involve the addition of a lot of volumes that Penguin doesn't actually yet make. So we shall see. I don't know that I'll live that long. But in the meantime, this is your Penguin Classic for today. It's It's 3 separate Penguin volumes of Sherlock Holmes. And of course, it's a recommend. Of course, I recommend Sherlock Holmes. Start right here. Start with Study in Scarlet. And just move on from there. I find it hard to believe you won't be hooked. But one way or another, I well and truly am. These things are indispensable books for me. And if that's the case, I mean, it's not like I'm out there ordering every single Penguin volume of Chekhov or Ibsen, but Arthur Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes, yeah, I should have every Penguin volume of those. So I'll be looking around. That'll be a lot of fun. But in the meantime, I'm going to wrap this up, and who knows? Today it was 3 books in one video. Tomorrow it may be more. We shall see. I will reconvene tomorrow, and we'll find out. Thank you, BookTube.